What's going on, you loyal listeners? Thank you for tuning in to the L Squared Podcast. I'm your host here, Luke Larson, and joining me today, as per the usual, my lovely and loquacious special guest, the man who will be assisting me in leisurely launching you into levity, Old Legs.
What's going on? How we doing?
Well, we're here. We're ready to entertain.
Yes.
We're ready to lay our thoughts on the line.
We are ready, and we got a bit of a grab bag episode here. This is the classic. Nothing was in theaters, and nothing was in theaters, and I think I'd run my course with dragging Luke to terrible, shitty movies. To the point where, we had to do this is a solo week here.
Right. So as you've seen,
we set off with a little bit of homework.
Right. So I mean, if you've been a loyal listener for a while, you know that there's some weeks where we just we phone it in. No, where like Old Leg said, there wasn't a lot coming out that we wanted to see that we had ideas about. So this is kind of where we branch off into other things. So like we've done before, this is today's assignments where we each give each other a movie that the other person hasn't seen, just so we can hear their thoughts on it. We can kind of talk about it, and burn through some. Honestly, it's really just getting rid of those blind spots, and it gives us an excuse and a deadline to see these movies. So really, we have no idea. It's always just like all right, we're gonna do one of these. What do you want me to see? And then we just go from there. So this week, Old Legs gave me the assignment of seeing Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Yeah. Which I wasn't sure if he was fucking with me or not. As you guys know, Old Legs, it's not a bit. He lives his life almost exclusively ironically. It's very difficult to tell when he's being serious. So I wasn't sure if he actually wanted me to watch this or if he was just joking, because it could have gone either way. I mean, I've heard a lot about Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I wanted to see it. It's been on my list for a long time. But at the same time, maybe Old Legs has a vendetta against this movie and hates it for some reason and thinks that it's overrated. I don't know. These are things I think. And then Old Legs gets offended at me when I say, "Oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that." And then
I get very offended. I get very offended when I ask you, "Hey, what's your Hawaiian name?" and you don't know. You haven't typed your name into a Hawaiian name generator, and so you don't have an answer for that. So I gave you this movie because, again, I think it's a little underrated. Maybe not. I'm not even really sure. As a comedy, it's a little bit more difficult to talk about in a podcast without just quoting off all the best lines.
Right, yeah.
But I really felt like maybe you should see this just because the movie was done and made at a really interesting time where you have all these people in the movie, and I don't think that you could bring together this ensemble again with the way like some of these guys' careers have kind of taken off. So it's kind of just like, it's really interesting how it just sits in this space where I don't know, we'll get into it, but is that what we want to talk about first? Because we have two movies that we're gonna go over today, but
let's do this one.
Okay. Yeah. So I was able to Google your Hawaiian name here quick, and it's I'm putting my palm over your face right now.
Great.
Luca.
Oh.
Lukey Lou.
What? What? It's
just Luca.
It's Luca, like Luca Brasi.
Yeah, I guess.
I'll take it.
I'm on HawaiianNames.hissurf.com. You can, loyal listeners, you can go there as well. I entered Old Legs, and I didn't get any results. So I'm a little offended, first off.
Wow. There wasn't
But
there wasn't anything they could think of for Old Leg.
no, I tried as two words, as both separately. I get no records found for either. So,
wow.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I'm more of kind of a global brand.
Yeah,
so
you're kind of a monolith
at
this point.
Right.
Interestingly, you said you're not sure if it's underrated. I think that this movie is just kind of one of those that it came out, it was kind of an underground hit, and it's sort of become one of the poster children for underrated movies. So in a lot of ways, it's almost become overrated by how underrated it's become.
Sure.
It's just kind of one of those weird ones, but it's also weird.
Before we get into all the Kunu stuff, whatever, all of my favorite parts, yeah. I'll let you ride with this, and just kind of, since this was my homework for you,
sure,
what you thought and what your impressions were, and then we can kind of go off of that, because
sure.
I have some thoughts on our next film, so
okay. I can't wait.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's
so
see.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall, what did you think?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, that's kind of the stigma I've had with this, is just that it was kind of it was underrated, and then it just kind of become known for being underrated, which is always very interesting. I mean, I think I kind of knew what to expect from it, and I really liked it. I thought it was very well made, and it was really funny. I mean, just really funny. And I think probably at the time, it probably felt a lot more fresh and a lot more interesting, and probably was doing things that other comedies weren't. But I mean, now if you look at it, we're 11 years past from when that came out, which is crazy. So I mean, just comedy's changed, and movies have changed a lot. Where not always for the better, but just different types of stuff. But this is a very I love the concept of this movie is just universal. It's universally relatable, and I really liked how it didn't get crazy ridiculous like most comedies do. I mean, it really stayed in the pocket and knew what it was trying to do, and really kept the heart of the movie where it was at. I mean, it was all about this guy and this breakup and him dealing with it. And it didn't get super fantastical or do a bunch of crazy stuff or have a bunch of stupid comedy set pieces that were ridiculous and have some huge third act romantic explosion. I mean, it was very sincere and honest, and I related to Jason Segel's character very, very much. Very, very much. So it was great. And it's one that I feel like, it was just this is just like a plug and play guy. This is a guy. It's a system guy. You can line him up, and he's just gonna make it work for you. You could.
You're talking about Peter?
Yeah.
As a character, or
I mean the film. I mean more of the film. I feel like this film as a whole is sort of like, he doesn't really need to know the playbook. Like, he's been in these types of systems, so you can just sign him, and off the street, he hasn't played in a bit, and he'll just come in and just do it for you. He'll know exactly where to be. He'll know where the spots are. He might not be briefed on the latest play calls, but he'll come in and he'll fill that role for you. So, yeah, I mean, it really is. You feel for him, and you really go on this emotional ride with him, and the whole time it was it's just cool also to just see a main character that's similar to me, kind of bigger dude, a little bit schlubby, so nice, super nice dude, funny, and thoughtful, and sensitive, and just how he's dealing with this relationship, and he's not he's not having the one tear moment, or I don't know. It was just really nice, very sincere, and a very nice movie. Now the biggest buy of that whole movie is the Mila Kunis character. Like
Okay.
anytime, you know, and when you go through a breakup, that's like your ideal situation that you want to like, you want to just go somewhere and not think about it and just like dwell in your sadness. But then like you always like imagine that there's going to be this super hot, super cool girl that you meet, and it's just like cool, laid back, no strings attached, and you just like connect right away, and it's really great and easy. Like that's definitely like the biggest buy of the movie. Now it's an enjoyable, and it's not the most ridiculous thing in the world, but things don't really happen like that. I would say that this is probably Kristen Bell at her most unlikable, because she's extremely likable, one of the most likable actresses around, and
Right.
it's like, wow. I mean, she really did a great job, and I couldn't get enough. I would totally watch all the shitty cop shows she was on, because that shit was
Oh my God.
hilarious.
Crime scene of the crime
is phenomenal with Billy fucking Baldwin.
Oh my God, I could have gonna have a hard time showing up to the party without a face.
It's so good.
There couldn't have been enough of crime scene at the crime, and just the idea of this guy and Peter being the guy that he is and having to do the music for a show like this.
And we want like kind of dark and ominous.
Yeah. No, we're looking for. I got Doobie Brothers tickets later on, man. You're not getting paid for this. Oh God, it's incredible.
It's great.
One of the nuances that I really enjoyed from like Peter's character, because he can be a little insufferable with like just his like basically like running through his grief and sorrow for the first hour and 15 minutes of this movie, but the way and like, oh man, it's being the guy who has the shitty girlfriend but doesn't know.
Yeah.
And having to have all these interactions with his friends where they're just trying to dance around. They're trying to hint at it like, it was like, I've seen like both sides of that are just like, like so hard. And to kind of pull that off where the friends are like, like Sarah, she was kind of not fun to hang around with, man. And you're just like feeling like you're just walking on eggshells the whole time.
Right.
And it's like, yeah. But,
and I really loved, I think maybe my favorite part was that Dracula puppet musical that he came up with at the end, because it's so just gorgeous. Like, I love that he has this dumb song that he's so genuine about, that he actually thinks is like, and he goes on stage and just puts so much effort into singing as Dracula, and then everyone's like, what the fuck is this?
Sometimes that's how I feel about like this podcast, where we're like, we have this like grand idea for this Dracula musical.
Oh yes. So much.
And like everyone we pitch it to, like, every time we're in the room with executives and we're like, here's our vision for it, and this is the next, this is what we need to do what we want to do, and we just get that we're just kind of looking off into the audience, the happy bar goers who are like, what?
They're like, wait, what is this? Yep, that's pretty much exactly what it's like doing this. But it's just, for it to come full circle and just work so well, because you think that that's just a bit, and you think it's just a joke, like, oh, he's such a sad sack, and he has this dumbass idea that isn't good, it sucks, and it's like, you just think it's supposed to be like a bit, just kind of funny, like, oh, isn't it funny that he thinks this is so great, but it actually sucks. But then for it to come full circle and have him, like, focus on it and have it actually become something.
It's actually kind of good.
It's actually kind of good, and people actually kind of like it, and it makes him feel good. Like that was great. I mean, that really stuck with me. It's a really enjoyable movie. It's a good. Now, here's a question I have for you. What's what's the better breakup movie, Forgetting Sarah Marshall or Midsummer?
Ooh. So I'm starting to have a little bit of issue with this because I feel like the internet is trying to push this thing where Midsummer is a breakup movie in the same way that like Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And it's like funny for to just kind of sit in that and have it be along with these other films, but at the end of the day, it's kind of not, and it's just kind of like a funny hip thing to say. I feel like.
Wow, that's hurtful. That you lump me in with that category.
No,
I came out of it like that's a good breakup movie because she like, I mean, it's disguised in a weird way, but that was good for her. That worked out for her. That's how she was able to get over her shitty boyfriend.
If breaking up with like your entire friend group
that's true.
is
Yeah.
the goal, then Midsummer definitely takes the cake there. Maybe it's more of just like the film of Midsummer, just because I think it's so universally like uncategorical with.
That's true.
Where I feel like it shouldn't necessarily be lumped into any category. I like it just to kind of sit like off by itself, and just kind of and be there, and just I'm just kind of happy with it, and yeah, we'll have to get Ari Aster on the podcast to really suss this one out.
You really took a left on that, which is great. I mean, we might have ended up dead end road, but we can turn it around. Right. You know what was weird though to see in this was like Bill Hader in the movie. Like it was like, oh yeah, like really like he was fine, but it's like, oh yeah, that was before Bill Hader was a thing. Because like Bill Hader now, I love Barry. And I've been a big Bill Hader fan for years since that time.
Don't even act like you watch Barry.
I do. I've seen every episode. I refuse to leave. This is my show, sir. But I love Bill Hader, and I think he's great.
He doesn't watch TV.
And he doesn't. Shut the fuck up,
audience. Okay. If he genuinely watched TV, we'd have something to talk about.
All right, shut the fuck up. Okay, shut up. Shut. I'll just be like, I'll be Philip Seymour Hoffman. Shut up. Shut.
Yes.
No, but it was weird to see him in just a bit part. Like that was the time where it was like, oh, here's like some guy we don't really know what to do with, but we know he's funny. Let's just like write in a character for him and have him in this movie.
I mean, it's the same thing with Kristen Wiig too.
Totally,
like Kristen Wiig is like an A+ lister now,
100%.
And she's just in this for the kind of this throwaway yoga scene where she's which is actually incredible.
Yeah, it is.
Sweat out the toxins.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, yeah, I think you're totally right. I love the club scene where they're going out. It is.
What club scene? Remind me.
The club scene with Hader and Siegel.
Oh.
where he's trying to get back on the horse.
Yeah. Yeah, that's rough.
I need to be my L on some TV.
Oh yeah. Ooh yeah. Yep. That
it's incredible. Like, oh my god.
Old Legs has been there a time or two.
Yes.
Yes. And I've been Bill Hader in that situation every time.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's fun. You know, we're all there to have fun. But,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad I got it off my list. But, yeah, very good. I don't know. This is nice because this is kind of one of those that all you hear is that it's actually really good. But like a lot of people didn't see it. But not really many people talk about it. I don't think I've really heard that many people talk about it. I've never heard anyone talk about Kunu before you.
Me.
right. You're the only one, so maybe we're breaking new ground here, but
I mean, honestly, Kunu is probably one of my top 10 like favorite cinematic characters of all time.
Of course. Why wouldn't he be?
He's so consistent with his contradictions that it actually like kind of makes sense if you think about it enough.
Wow.
Like if you're consistently contradicting yourself, that's actually you're on to something there.
Yeah, and
Kunu,
he's on the pulse. I would love to see a Kunu Beach Bum crossover movie.
I pass on the Beach Bum, man.
What?
How dare you? How
are you out on that?
How dare you compare Kunu? Kunu doesn't want to watch anymore.
Yeah.
Don't do anything.
If I could just say this point, just to have it on the record, when you mentioned being consistent with his inconsistencies, that was one of my main gripes with Dumb and Dumber 2, was that their consistency of being dumb was not the same as it was in the first movie. They were dumb about different things that they weren't dumb about in the first movie, and it just bothered me to no end. So I just want that point on the record. It doesn't have anything to do with anything, but
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to agree with you there because I don't have anything to add.
Great. Perfect. I'm
also going to go on the record for the first time and just say that I don't have anything to add.
That's my ideal show. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's hit the transition music here if we could.
All right.
Ready?
We're transitioning.
Boom. I'm not sure what sound effect I just clicked, but we're transitioning. So my pick that I had for you was
American Animals.
Boom. So this was a movie that made my top 10 of the year last year. I loved it, and I've been dying to hear your thoughts on it ever since. So with that being said, Old Legs, the floor is yours.
I forgot that you had it in your top 10. I thought this was maybe an honorable mention.
No. It was a top 5.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. So American Animals is it's a blend of non-fictional storytelling through the use of real actors that are it pivots back and forth between the actual people who planned this heist at a college library to steal this book with a bunch of birds in it. And it's starring essentially Evan Peters and Barry Keoghan, my guy Barry Keoghan.
Georgie,
we're going out to sea, Georgie.
Wait, can you do that? What if Adam Driver played his dad instead? How would he sound?
Georgie, we're taking the boat. We're taking the boat to Dunkirk. Hopefully we don't see any planes because I don't have any guns.
Hoist the sails, Georgie.
Hoist the sails, Georgie. Georgie, do you have your EpiPen?
Man,
you might want to have it.
That is rich.
Yeah, my guy, Barry Keoghan. Okay.
So it's sort of like it's like half documentary, half retelling of what happened.
Yes, which I'm only.
I love it. There's turmoil in his voice.
I think a little bit missed the mark.
Whoa.
In terms of just cinematic direction. Because it felt. So here is my thing. Here is my kind of conflict with this, my movie, my dilemma, is that I thought that the actual people involved with it were interesting enough to where I think I more or less would have just wanted to watch a documentary about them. and I came away from the movie wanting a little bit more of the real live version of these people. And I think it distracted from what I thought was actually a pretty good heist or pseudo heist film where all the characters are idiots,
right?
But charismatic idiots. And so yeah, I felt like I didn't quite get enough of either. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean,
it was like
I don't agree with you, but it makes sense.
You'd rather whole-ass one thing than half-ass two things.
Hold on.
And I feel
that's
like
not fair.
Maybe that's tough criticism, but I just felt like having the real life people chiming in so much. I get it. It was interesting, and I don't think I've seen that in a feature film. That's not just like some bullshit on like the History Network, like Ancient Aliens or something like that, where it's like this dramatic recreation and you have people kind of telling you the story as it goes. But I just feel like it was kind of a disservice to both parties, because I thought Evan Peters and Barry Keoghan were like really good in it. And I feel like you brought up Philip Seymour Hoffman earlier, and I was thinking about it yesterday, how like I feel like one of these dudes is gonna like be that. They're both really young, and they have this really dark, kinetic energy about them.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because I the roles that I've seen each of these actors in, but it feels like both of them, there's just like something like a little bit dark under the surface, and it's like neither of them have that like leading man face where you're like, this isn't like Brad Pitt in Sissy and Bud. Like there's no like, you don't come walking out through like, oh my god, like that guy.
That's a star. Yeah.
Yeah. But they're really good actors, and I think that, and not to like take away from them because they don't look like Brad Pitt, but there's just that, I don't know, it's just like a really wild energy where you're not really sure what any of them is going to do at any specific time on the screen. So
yeah.
So go ahead. I remember you mentioning this movie now. I forgot that it was on your top 10. Give me the and also I can't. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the stunning Andout, who plays the kind of librarian / security guard in this movie.
Great.
I love her so much.
She was great.
Cast him out! Cast him out!
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
You are Payman. Yeah. Ugh,
so,
she's so good. Everything she's in.
So
go ahead. Make a case.
Yeah, so I'm excited.
Because I feel like I don't want to completely shit on this. But.
Yeah, because I'm excited because I don't agree with you. I think that it held up in both, and I thought it did both of those things very well. I thought it did the heist movie extremely well, and sort of the memoir documentary very well. And I love that they did it in a way that it was both, and I think it added to it. And I think that the key to this, and this really hit me deep, but it was like when the main character, Georgie, when his older self is talking about like how he wanted to be an artist, and he was like good at drawing, but he like all these artists he looked up to were these guys who had some sort of terrible tragedy in their life, or they had to overcome some big, basically just some horrible thing that happened to him, and he's like, and that really came across in their art, and he's like, I'm just like a kid from a well-off family that's very loving and supportive, and I'm just really good at drawing. So there's got to be more to life than just being good at drawing, And he was really kind of aching to find that purpose in his life, and to have his big tragedy that would inspire his his art. And, and he's just kind of in that place where he's just starting college and he doesn't really know what he's doing. He's just sort of getting through it, meandering, sleeping in, smoking a bunch of weed, not really giving a shit, and just sort of walking through life and just be like, is this all life is? Like, what am I doing? Just sort of bored and nervous.
Very melodramatic. He's like an anime character.
Yes.
He's like a character from Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Okay, stop.
Extremely.
Stop. We're not going there, okay?
Extremely melodramatic.
So anyway, look, I'm making my point. We're not going to bring anime into this.
No. Hey, I can't even mention anime.
No,
that is it.
This is not an anime show.
Okay. All right. I guess I won't agree with you again. Sorry.
You better fucking think twice, old legs. All right. I officially apologize. I was out of line. Okay, it's on the record. I'm sorry.
Goddamn right you were.
Okay. So I love that. And then he sees his friend who is equally doesn't have any direction in life. But he's enjoying life more, even though he's also depressed. But he's like stealing meats and cheeses from this restaurant that he used to work at, and they're driving around at night and just doing dumb shit, and he's just fun to be around. And then all of a sudden he has this moment where he sees this book, and he just has almost a religious experience where he's seeing this book, and just the painting of that flamingo just hit him so deep, and it was like, wow, I actually felt something real, and I'm not just like numb. And then he just is thinking about it. He tells his friend, and he says, oh, hey, we could steal those, and then blah, blah, blah. And then it becomes a fun little dumb adventure like you have with your friends. We're like, oh man, wouldn't that be crazy if we should fucking break in and steal it, burn. And then like it just becomes fun just kind of thinking about the heist and how they would do it. And I don't think he really thought it was actually going to happen. They were just kind of having fun, joking around like, well, obviously we're not actually going to do this, And I really love the cross between the real men who did this and them being older and wiser, and them, recounting the story as well, but with regret and just like sort of like, yeah, it was, they're like obviously not proud of it, but just kind of reminiscing, and then seeing the counterparts, the actors playing them, and just seeing them wide-eyed and young and stupid, and I really love that back and forth where they're like, you can kind of see it both ways. Like you really feel it with the actors, when they're going through it, and you feel like I felt like I was right there with them with the heist. Like I felt like I was a dumb college kid, and that they're like, oh, we're just gonna walk in here, whatever. And then they were all just sort of like, what are we doing with our lives? Where are our lives going? This gives us meaning, And then I don't think they realize how serious it was or how much it fucked their life up. And then on the other end, they're remembering that they were having fun thinking about it, but then man, that was so God, that really, then the regret just comes off, and I love that back and forth. And I also love that it's not, and then the full circle comes around where, he wanted this, he was kind of craving this meaning in his life and this big tragedy, and he got it. He kind of manufactured it where he fucking went to jail and he fucked his life up. He could have gone off into art school and really become successful, whatever, but he fucked all that up by doing an incredibly stupid thing that he just, and then all of a sudden that was his big tragedy, and now that has influenced his art where now he mainly paints birds and he's a working artist in a town, but that is his life's tragedy. And it's just this movie just sings for me, and I absolutely love it. And it got in deep.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm on board for the Barry Keoghan character. I just couldn't take Evan Peters' character seriously, or the real life version, like the Warren version.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I've met this guy at that same bar where I'm at with Bill and Hay, like with Bill Hader
Right.
at 1 a.m, where I'm having a conversation with a guy, and he's like really fun for like 10 minutes, and then you walk away and you go and you talk to your buddies, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that guy's like a big time coke dealer. Like, that guy's crazy," and you're like,
fits.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, that
Shit,
definitely
we were
fits.
almost like buddies, like, like I was gonna like go back to his house and play Xbox.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
That character bugged me because he's so the self-importance just it. Maybe it's because I work with college students on a regular basis, and I see a lot of this, like before people are necessarily jaded about the world, and instead of just picking something to work towards, it's this thing where it's like, oh, the world's against us, and we have to steal this thing, and that's how we'll make our money. It's like, come on.
It's very
man.
interesting.
Like,
that's a very interesting point. Yeah.
It's such a shat. Like, there's not there. The stakes are really they don't need to do this. I get the thing where they think their lives are boring, but it's like, God, that's what happens to like middle class suburbia.
Absolutely.
You start to think that you have the most boring, insignificant life, and you don't really take for granted how good you have it. And it seems like maybe they learn those lessons, maybe not. I don't know. Like,
yeah, I think they regret it. I don't think there's any doubt about that, but I don't know how far did they actually learn the lessons. Like, I would think they did, especially like, even though I didn't like him, I felt really bad for the rich dude, the jock, the personal trainer guy, because like he didn't even really want to do it, and they just used him because he had money, and he just like he was really the one. He was like the least invested in all of it, and his life really got fucked too. And it's like, dude, like why'd you do that, man? Even though like I didn't like him, like it was just incredibly dumb. Like at least like the other guys, like, I don't know, they should like feel bad about it, but it's like they really invested a lot of time and energy into it, where he like just kind of came in at the end and wasn't really like that invested, but he still like served the same amount of jail time. His life is equally as fucked up, and it's just like that like it's just heartbreaking, and it happened, and it's real. It's like that's why the stakes are really high. And, like, you remember what it's like to think like that at the time, and then it's like, but you just want to, like, say you want their real-life counterparts to be like, no, guys, like, you don't get it. This is going to fuck your life up. You will never, your life will be shitty forever because of this. Like, you don't realize that this is affecting real people, you dumbasses. Like, yeah, I mean, it really works on a lot of levels for me. And this also came at a time, I don't know if I told this story on the Top 10 show, but listen back. Why not find out? It'd be a surprise for all of us.
There you go.
But when
shameless plug.
Yeah, there you go. You're welcome.
Bump them numbers.
Yeah. But when I wanted to watch this, I was at home, and I wanted to rent this movie. I hadn't heard like barely anything about it. I just saw that it was a movie called American Animals, and I heard the premise and was like, all right, I'm going to watch it. So I rented it. I have DirecTV, not trying to brag, but I rented it through DirecTV, and I start watching it, and it gets about 10 minutes in. And the reason and also like I was in a weird mood. I was kind of down. I was in a weird place, and it wasn't really a good time. So like, I just want to watch a movie and just like, sink in. Well, it got about 10 minutes in, and then it just quit. And it was like, oh, your internet sucks, and we can't like play the rest of this movie. Which I was like, okay, but I rented it, and my internet was just it was HughesNet. I don't mind. I've tweeted at them. HughesNet sucks. They're the worst.
Fact. Yes.
I only got
the listeners
them.
Want to know.
They want to know. Look, This is what they tune in for. I mean, I only got them because DirecTV was like, well, we'll bundle, but we'll only bundle with HughesNet. We'll give you this deal. Okay. Yes. They go to HughesNet, and they're like, well, we don't actually do bundles. You know, I won't give you the whole lowdown. Basically, I was paying a lot of money for HughesNet. Please, you want all the details? Okay.
Yes. No, I know I'm not allowed to mention anime, but internet bundle packages are totally, totally relevant.
That's fair.
Go ahead. Yes.
Anyway, it has something to do with the story, I promise. Anyway, so internet sucked. I'm paying a bunch of money for it, and I was having a hard time. I'm like, all I want to do is watch this fucking movie, right? So I'm like, I'm gonna rent it. So I was like, I'm gonna old school, go to a Redbox.
I'm gonna steal it.
Yeah, that's almost what it got to. But I was like, I want to see it. So like, I checked. It said I looked online, said they had it at Redbox. In my local town, I went to the store that has the Redbox. They didn't have it. So I was like, hey, I'm literally going to go to the next town over until I find this. Went to the next town over, checked a Redbox there, didn't have it. Drove across that town to another Redbox. They didn't have it. I was like, I don't care what happens tonight. I'm going to find this movie. So eventually I just went to Walmart, and I went to their movies, and they didn't have it on Blu-ray, but they had one final thing on DVD. And I was like, okay, I'm buying it. Bought it, drove all the way home, put it in my player, started watching it, got about 15 minutes in, and then my player quit working. It just shut off. And I was like, I am going to watch this movie whether the universe wants me to or not. And I took it out, restarted my player, and then it was fine. And I ended up watching the whole thing. and it really, like, I worked hard to watch that movie, and it really hit me deeply, and it resonated with me on another level. And I just watched it again recently, and I love it. And I know this is one that I'm going to pop in a lot. And I just love the building up to the heist, and how how terrible it goes and how bad it is for all of them. I still just love seeing that youthful, that stupid excitement they have for it, and they don't realize how dumb it is. And the whole time you're like, okay, you're not going to do it. And the first time when they try and it doesn't work and they're driving away, and you're like, okay, good. Look, guys, you're not doing it now. Isn't that crazy? Haha, you're going to have this great story forever. But then, like, man, it's just so, it's so good.
Question.
Yes.
Question. Why didn't they wear the mask the second time?
Yeah, the second time they really just kind of went in. I mean, if you see like the news footage, that's kind of like how it went. I mean, they're kind of dumb, but they did put a lot of like effort in the first one. Kind of.
I feel like you already have like the disguise. Like,
just
why
put
not
them on
wear
again.
them the second day?
Yep. I don't know.
Right?
Yeah.
Was it like a Mission Impossible mask? Like you pull it off and it's like you can't use it again? Like I was baffled by that.
Well, I mean, ask the real life people, because that's how it went down.
Right.
Yeah.
I would have had some reservations there.
You would have tasered the girl. You would have been all about tasering the librarian.
Yeah, I tasered myself. Not that bad.
It's not that bad. Kind of liked it.
Not that bad. Yeah, I did like the. My favorite part of the movie was I didn't understand why it was dark in the basement, why they couldn't just kind of like figure their way out of there. But my favorite part was the where they're the and they're just kind of like walk right through the
lobby.
We gotta go for it. We gotta make a run.
We gotta go. We gotta go. What? What?
Yeah. That was probably my favorite part of the film, because I could see all the wheels turning.
Yeah. And I think they just panicked. There probably was a way out in the basement, but they just panicked. And they were just like, shit.
Just take your time. I don't know, like.
Yeah, it's okay, man. But no, they were, yeah. And it's like, that's real life. I mean, that's what would happen in one of those situations, but.
I suppose if this was fiction, they would have
they would
have gotten away with it in some wild Ocean's 11 scheme, and they walk out with the real painting, and they're dressed as cops, and I don't,
Yeah, exactly.
But no, they were stupid and doomed from the start.
Right.
But.
And I love too, like that part, just that little part at the end where like he was like, yeah, I don't really know if Warren actually went to Europe to meet with that guy. No one actually knows. He's like, I dropped him off at the airport, but
I'm thinking no.
Yeah, see,
I'm thinking no.
That makes sense. It would make more sense if it was no, but it was just like, yeah, I can't go with him and drop you off. But it's like, it's fun to think about. Like, it's fun, like, did he go? Did he not? I mean, it doesn't really matter in the overall scheme of things, but it's like, I mean, if he didn't, that sucks, but I'm pretty sure he probably didn't. But it's like, it's because then it's like, at what level? Because it's like, he really didn't plan on this thing working out if he didn't go, it just kind of shows you the level of how whatever. And I feel so bad for all their parents too. Like their parents are on there and they're like, and it's tough. It's like, yeah, it sucks.
And so we've done the Adam Driver review of a film here. So our other bit relating this back to Manchester by the Sea, our favorite movie here on L Squared Podcast. I mean, do you really think, in the spirit of Manchester by the Sea, do you really think that these guys have changed? Like, I see, like, when Warren's walking off and he's going to be the next Chris Nolan, and I just still think he's an idiot.
Yeah,
right?
No, I don't think he's changed.
And
I
he's still
agree.
relishing in it, and I'm like, and I'm sitting here thinking, like, okay, yeah, they went to jail, but like, are they still?
I think that
now they have this fucking movie.
Yeah, I think that
I wonder like how much they got paid for this. Maybe they didn't get. I don't know. Maybe they didn't get a big cut from the film. And,
I don't really know either.
It wasn't like a super huge success, but I'm like, God, really?
Well,
like, are we really gonna just like?
I think
it just felt a little bit patronizing too, where all of a sudden it's these guys they've gone through this serious traumatic thing where I'm like, okay, like maybe, but
I mean,
they're still just kind of assholes at the end too.
I think that it seems like Georgie's character, like, he seems to be the one who's the wisest from it all. That other CIA guy, like, you could tell he regretted it, but he knew it was dumb from the start, and so he's just kind of like mad at himself. And then like the personal trainer guy is like, whatever, he really only has himself to blame for being that dumb anyway. But like the Georgie character, I think, probably changed the most, and the Warren character definitely, or person, I guess, definitely probably changed the least. And yeah, you're right. It's like, man, they did this shit thing, and yeah, what did they really get? They went to jail, but other than that, it's like,
got out of jail.
They got out of jail.
What do they got? Movie deal.
That's true. Yeah, and that sucks. But I mean,
it's just hard for me to be like, woe is me. And these guys, they've really been through something. It just, I never really emotionally connected with any of them, because I kind of at just a subliminal level, I'm like, these guys are like kind of assholes. Yeah. And so I guess that maybe that's why it's divisive. Maybe that's perhaps why it didn't have the profound effect on me as it did with you, but I can see the other way where you can kind of see like through how these guys have made it, and they essentially did the whole Shawshank through the mud and shit, and here they are.
Yep, they made it on the other end.
So
well, loved it. I've been waiting so long to hear your thoughts on that.
And I couldn't wait to disappoint you, man.
Loved
not bad. No, I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. I just it was okay.
But like, I feel like that's how you know it's like it's good. I feel like good art should be challenging, and I feel like that movie kind of, it does give you a moral challenge to kind of wrestle with, and whether you
Right.
whether you like that or not. And maybe that's one of the
you
most
don't like
pretentious
art, man?
things I've ever said. You don't like art?
You don't like art?
We don't know. We don't have enough time.
It's like it's a piece of art. It's about art, man. You don't see that, bro.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for listening. You can find me on Twitter at Luke Larson89. This podcast at L2 Podcast on Facebook, at L Squared Podcast on Twitter. We're also L Squared Podcast on Instagram. You can find us on
everywhere.
SoundCloud, YouTube. We are everywhere.
Everywhere.
Great films make your life better.
Yes. Be back next week. We're gonna be back to what we're good at, doing shitty movies.
That's right.
I'm exercising. It's my birthday weekend. I am exercising my executive power to go see whatever the fuck I want. And guess what I want to see? I want to see 47 fucking meters down, baby. Unhinged or
Uncaged, I think.
Uncaged.
Yeah.
Uncaged. Yes, Uncaged.
One
of my number one most anticipated. Can't wait. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
No Mandy Moore. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
Is there
matter.
a big shark? Check. Are there people in the water? Check. Are they stranded without a way of getting up?
Probably.
I guess.
Check.
Sounds good. Check. Yeah.
Green light.
Will Blake Lively show up to save the day?
Probably not, but we'll see.
Maybe. Yeah. We'll be back. And I can't wait.